All right, I think we're live.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live AMA. It's actually the first live AMA for the Data Goats community. We have an awesome guest for this AMA, Eric Summers. Eric, thank you for being here and answering all the questions of the people out there on LinkedIn. Before we get into it, I want you to actually give a brief intro of who you are, but I'm just going to put a quick plug out there. If you like this event, go join the Goats community, the datagoats.org community, if you enjoy this AMA. It's a great place for you to connect with other analysts, and we have monthly social hours to do that, so you can kind of have some one-on-one with other people in the community. We actually had one of those last week. Eric was on that as well. Thank you for joining that, Eric. And then we actually have like regular contests, so like data viz contests and other things that we do as well, where you can win real prizes that are worth real money. And there's been some pretty cool stuff that's come out of that. And then, of course, there's AMAs like this as well too. So you can, join us and get to participate with all the fun stuff. And I see Tiffany's on, and she says hello. So let me go ahead and take a look at the comments here and see if we got any questions coming in already. But while we do that, Eric, why don't you give a brief intro, who you are and kind of what you do?
Yeah. So Eric Summers, obviously, I have been using Tableau and data tools for probably the last 15 years. Started out my career in accounting and quickly gravitated towards the analysis part of the job, like month-end activities on budget, variance analysis and stuff. So that was right about the time I had learned about Tableau, and I was up in Seattle. So, a lot of people there were using it early on, and was able to, kind of pick up the skill in that early on. My first experience with it actually was I was asked to create a demo for the CEO and CTO of Concur, where I was working at the time, but I was an accountant, and it was pretty fun. So I just started building, and when it got to the presentation, the two like C-level execs, they were just up at the screen. They were like going back and forth over all these questions that they had, like what else can we look at, and how do we it generated a ton more questions, but it also like showed them how well visualization would work. And they basically soon after that signed up like company wide on Tableau. So that was fun. Yeah, so I haven't stopped since then, and more recently have really gotten into, well, actually 8 years or so have been gotten into admin work for Tableau server and now cloud. And that's kind of where I'm landing now, is trying to make admin's jobs more or simplified, easier, more efficient through all the APIs. And it's kind of found a good niche there where I enjoy the work and I love like automating things. So it fits nicely with what I like to do and what I think a lot of people are looking for from what I've seen. And just want to
Yeah.
say, hey, Tiffany. Tiffany's actually one of my testers. She's like been testing all of my new things and breakages for the last month or so. So thank you.
Yeah, actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been building? Because I know that with what I know about it, which isn't nearly as much as some people, I think a lot of what you're doing with TableauOps is probably a godsend to people. So like I would love, maybe people would love to hear a little bit more about what that is and what you've built, and maybe some of the lessons that you've had with it.
Yeah. So I am building a platform or site at TableauOps.com, and basically when I started learning, I learned Python because I wanted to automate Tableau functions. So just like the barriers to learning Python were heavy, or high, I guess. And it took me multiple times of just installing Python and trying to get uh, to where I had all the right libraries and all that, and I didn't understand any of that, and it was just difficult to even just get started. So TableauOps is there to try to take away all of that difficulty. So you can, like, even in the first lesson, I have you setting up kind of like a boilerplate of code that you'll be using for Tableau Server Client, and run it in the browser. You don't have to install Python. You don't have to have any extra software, just your browser. And so I'm trying to just make it as easy as possible for students and learners to get up and running with the APIs. And another part is um, trying to provide a way for like there are functions that I use all the time, and I don't memorize them. I have to go find them every time. So another part of the platform is being able to save those chunks of code for various purposes. And one of the build out plans I have is to be able to search code blocks by the activity you're trying to do, or like the goal that you have. Like, I want to know how many users I have on my site and what their last login date was, or something. So being able to search that way and return kind of the block of code that you would need through Tableau Server Client or the REST API, or any of the APIs. So it'll be a learning platform. So
That's really
sorry, my
cool.
answers are long.
No, that's great. That's great. Thorough is awesome. And if you're watching this afterwards, we're gonna have this recorded. So if for
Mhm.
some reason somebody didn't make it live, I think it's valuable to be able to unpack all that. We can always edit things as needed too. So no worries on that. I don't see any additional questions coming in on LinkedIn right now, but that's okay. I have some questions myself, so I can ask you some of those. You covered your background a little bit with accounting. I think that's really interesting. How did can you unpack a little bit more just like on that transition, and like maybe some advice you would give to people that are maybe analytics adjacent, like they've been doing some analyst work, but maybe they want to get a little bit more technical, a little bit more in the weeds. Like, what kind of approach would you take? Like, other than for instance, using Tableau Ops, if you want to learn Tableau Server and all that fun stuff and all the APIs, like maybe some other tricks, tips, best practices for kind of getting a little bit more in the technical weeds, if
Yeah,
somebody wants to take that route.
yeah. Great question. I would say, just be aware, like, foremost, be aware of opportunities to use analytics skills. Like, if you're from whatever background you're coming from, I my opinion is that there are opportunities like that. In If you're sitting at a computer and using a computer all the time, then there are opportunities for you to provide some type of analysis for your company. So look for those opportunities. Be aware that they're most likely available, but you're not likely going to be told what to do, um, or necessarily have like a lot of direction in that area. Like, when I was kind of on that same journey, moving from accounting to purely analytics, I don't know. I have like a um, proactive approach. I was never given a project. I just tried different things that I like doing. And I know that's not always possible in every position, but try to do it as much as possible. Um, where even if it's not necessarily your job description or your function, try to um, try to improve things, even if you're not asked to. So,
Yeah, I
I
think
guess,
that's.
sorry, I'll have a little more, just like more
Oh
specific
yeah,
on
absolutely.
my like moving to analytics. I actually um, I was able to find a position as a revenue analyst, and I had purely done revenue accounting prior to that, and it was a job where I was writing SQL and doing queries for a revenue department, um, and or for a software company within like the revenue analytics space. And but it required my accounting background. Like I still had to do like month end processes and even like prepare some journal entries and things like that. So if you can find some like a bridge between the two, like where you're at and where you want to go, then definitely try to look for those types of opportunities as well.
Yeah, it's really good advice. I've had a similar experience myself with how I got into analytics to begin with. Was a place where I knew the business pretty well, and then there was an opportunity that was kind of adjacent to it. I was able to make that transition.
Mhm. Cool.
Jeremy has a good question. I'll throw it up here on the screen. Have you played around with Tableau MCP much yet? And how does that fit with kind of what you're creating?
I have played around with it. I've gone through a lot of the tutorials and content out there starts with setting up Claude and like having Claude as the back end of of the MCP platform that Tableau has recently released. Um, I haven't. So I built a lot of like natural language querying type prototypes, demos, but I haven't gotten anything really into production that I use in my day to day. So I still have a lot to kind of learn in that area. And um, as far as the platform on TableauOps, um, that it would be it is on the roadmap, like things like MCP and kind of like any type of technical um, part of Tableau that most likely is non dashboard related. I'm interested in putting out there. Um, but that and like the metadata API and some of the others that are more technical, like um, are probably further further out than things like the REST API. Um, just because part of the I haven't played enough with the MCP to know really what is possible, but like the biggest goal of mine is to allow users or admins to automate things like whatever they can automate as much as possible, and I see that mostly coming through like the REST API and Tableau Server Client, which is built on top of it. So
Yeah,
I love the MCP and like learning that, but as far as trying to teach it, I'm not quite there yet. So yeah,
yeah, totally
thanks for the
fair.
question.
Yeah, there's a lot there with MCP, especially as more organizations are trying to stand up AI data solutions. Chat with your data or whatever it may be. That stuff's going to be pretty critical. I saw that Oracle has MCP now for their databases, and it's going to continue to be a thing that more and more places that don't have it, they're going to have to kind of catch up. It's kind of becoming the norm.
Yeah.
Jeremy says, thanks for the info. Feels like there's a lot of opportunity in that space. So curious how people are thinking about it. Thanks for the
Yeah.
comment, Jeremy. Kind of a little bit more of a basic question, just with how your approach to analytics problems, just in general. Like if you have a really complex, messy data set, like what's kind of your first step for approaching that? Like how do you deal with it? What's kind of your approach to starting to tackle that?
I guess just like with most projects, like where the dashboard is going to be the end goal, providing analytics and insights. Um, I'm I'm not great at like wireframing and planning. I like to just jump into the data, and I know it's probably like not industry best practice, but it's just how I keep momentum going and can jump into a project quickly. And so to answer that, like I generally would start with the end goal, like the dashboard and what, just like navigating around the data and understanding it if it's a brand new data source that I'm not familiar with, and figuring out what I want to display then in what I want to provide as insights, and then go back to the data. And if it's not um, structured or well enough structured, or if they're missing pieces, different calculations or cleanup, um, then I would do that work. If that makes sense. I know probably the method that most use is like get the data ready, make it perfect, and then go build something. But I don't know. I like to work the other way, just so I'm not spending time I don't have to on the data set, I guess. Like I'll clean up what needs to be cleaned up, and then I don't waste time on data that I'm not going to use, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think early on in my career, I would almost take whatever the data is and then start, kind of going in and like just building like a dashboard with it or trying to build some visuals on it. But now the first thing I do is I just go in there and look at the raw data, and just kind of see what stuff's in there, do some different filters and sorting, and just kind of look through it and just kind of familiarize myself with it. That's usually the approach that I take. So it's
Yeah.
funny. Everybody, kind of takes different approaches. It's always interesting to hear how people go about that. What's the single biggest time waster you see Tableau developers doing? That, like whether it's something manual that they could automate, or just maybe like kind of like a common mistake.
Oh, probably getting too far into a dashboard building project without having received enough direction from the end user. So yeah, like building what you as an analyst think is the right product without having spent enough time with the end user. Um, and that was my experience for myself too. Thinking that I knew what was going to be interesting or insightful, and then building a whole dashboard and finding out that's not what the end user is gonna use that dashboard for. So I think what I try to do now, the best approach is, you get your initial, you start building, but you don't like spend a lot of time building without giving like, even if it's daily updates on even just some screenshots about the direction that you're taking with the dashboard. Um, so yeah, just spending time building things that might not be the right solution.
Yeah, nobody likes doing work twice.
Right. Yeah.
I've been there though before. I thought I had a really good list of requirements, and a really good understanding of what the outcomes were, what the metrics were, how they were going to be calculated, the way people wanted to display it. Sometimes even little things like color, like just little stuff. Sometimes you don't have freedom on that. Like my last
Mm,
organization, everything was the same color palette, But when you do have the flexibility, it's funny. You go back, if you don't go back, then you can find yourself kind of at the end. You're at the end of the project. You got to move on to the next thing, and they're like, yeah, we need like 6 or 7 things changed with this. Like, ugh. We should ask some more questions. So yeah, that's a learning, I think, for a lot of people earlier in their careers, so they can kind of get that right. And you have to redo work a few times. You kind of learn that lesson.
yeah. Yeah. And especially with my approach to like not wireframing a ton, it's even more necessary to kind of get the direction down first and along the way. So
Yeah. Tiffany says, besides TableauOps, what do you do for fun?
I don't know. I love using cursor and building things. I guess that's fun to me, like building Tableau Ops, and I'm building a number of other things also at work. Just building, like, I don't know why, but I'm just like driven to make things easier and more efficient. So anytime I have an idea, just now that we have like tools that make it easy to build and test things quickly. Like I wouldn't rely on all the things I build for production, but I love partnering with like DevOps um, and data, other like data engineers to kind of bring what I've, my MVP or POC to production level. Um, anyway, but for fun, uh, I run I run a lot. Haven't done a marathon for a year, but done plenty of marathons and some ultras and 2 Goggins challenges, if you know what that is. That
I'm
is,
familiar with him. I'm not familiar with the challenge.
it calls it the 4x4x48. So you run every 4 hours, you run 4 miles for 48 hours. So every 4 hours, you're getting up and running 4 miles, and it's taxing. Like some of those times are going to be waking up at 2 or 4 or and then 8, and half of them are in the dark. And I've always done them in November, so weather can be terrible as well.
Yeah,
But
torture.
yeah, I'll answer that last piece because I am um, working with like video and doing a lot of ML training, building like machine learning models for object detection. I'm not gonna like say a ton because I'm not making this public yet, but just yeah, building a huge platform related to specific object detection from video, event detection even. So yeah, that's my
That's pretty
current.
exciting. Yeah, computer vision stuff is really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we got another Tableau question. Why do you prefer Tableau over Power BI if there is a preference at all?
Yeah, I can't speak to the Power BI side, so that's that's probably why I'm with Tableau. But the first, I as an accountant, I worked in Excel, and the first time I picked up Tableau, it was like I was blown away at what I could do with just a few minutes in a data set compared to what I had seen and been building in like Excel's chart features. Um, so I never approached like learning Power BI when it came, when it started coming out. I don't know, it's been 10 years maybe. But I just have been in Tableau so much that it just never was something I got into the Power BI side, so I can't speak to which one I like better. Well, I mean, obviously I like Tableau better, but I can't compare the two.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, and as a Tableau ambassador, I wouldn't expect you to say
well,
otherwise. But no, I actually, my first experience was Power BI. So I've kind of experienced both. I actually have way more experience with Power BI, but I personally, I think I like Tableau better. I think it's a little easier. Like the learning curve was a lot um, shorter for me with Tableau. I think it's just a more user-friendly tool personally. It's easier to get things going. Very advanced at what you can do with it. But if you're just trying to kind of visualize a few things, it's really easy to just get something going.
yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit meta with this question, just kind of broadly analytics. Like, how do you see analytics kind of changing over the next 5 years? I know this is like the big question that gets kicked around a lot. Like, do you think it's a drastic shift? Is it more gradual? Where are we going?
I think for analytics, it will be. I don't think there will be any like drastic changes that are immediate or quick. I think it will be a slow move towards partnering with AI tools. And I know we discussed this a little bit last week, but the tools are just going to get better. So like I think that analysts will start relying on like I'm saying, partnering with AI tools to provide the answers or insights that are needed. One of the biggest things now that I look at for data and moving quickly with an analysis is like um, doing that initial understanding of a new data set. So just giving ChatGPT or whatever platform you like the whole data set, if possible, a portion of it, and asking like where not don't give me the answers, like don't give me these calculations and like what the average of number of days, whatever, but tell me where I should look for insights, like where are there outliers and things that maybe don't make sense in this data. And that's getting back to like whether the data is cleaned up or needs a lot of work in that area. But also, yeah, just not wasting wasting time on like going in a direction that your data won't be able to answer for you. So understanding quicker what questions that data can answer, and then diving in like I don't know that I'll ever not look at the data in a table like you're saying, Zach. Um, yeah, even now when I'm looking through Tableau, for me, it's just I used to build charts so that I could uh, click on the areas that I wanted to see and then do the view data thing. But now I love just looking through the data, kind of like first and even throughout the process. So, but yeah, like I don't know, it's I don't know what the speed will be, but definitely I would suggest, highly recommend like figuring out one of the tools and like figuring out which one you might like more than another, and learn how to use it like in your analysis. Don't let it give you the answers though, because you need to have like curiosity, and you don't want to lose that kind of like drive to look for things, but use it just to quicker understand.
Yeah, like an exploration tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. It provides really good summaries. So like I've had it, just kind of from a almost like a metadata perspective, like look at look at that and tell me what's in this table. What am I looking at? Like, what's some stuff that might be, like you said, potential outliers is really helpful because it's like, okay, now I can just narrow in on that. I don't have to like spend 15 minutes just figuring out like how the data is even structured
Mhm.
before I can dive in. So it's pretty cool. Do you think we get to a place in 5 years where stakeholders can really self-serve, or do you think we're with some things, right? Because like there's some things it's gonna require a deeper analysis. But do you think we're, because I mean there's tons of solutions out there right now, right, that like promise chat with your data, and we know some of them are better than others, and like it's obviously going to improve. But like, do you think we're at a place in 5 years where analysts start getting deeper technically? They're developing more stuff. Maybe they're taking on more work, or they're going deeper into certain work, and the business can kind of self-serve for the most part. Or do you think we're a little further with that? Like, what do you kind of think?
I'm not sure on that. Like, um, maybe AI now is the tool that gets us to this golden like self-serve thing that we've been talking about for 10 years. I think that's probably going to be the case. That it AI can um, make our questions as a business user, non-technical user, understandable to, or yeah, it would allow someone to have just a business background and get the answers that they need. I definitely see that, probably sooner than I would guess, but like you're saying, like some tools are better than others, and a lot of industries, a lot of companies aren't going to rely on like a public tool where their data might be used or compromised or whatever. So I think a lot of the time might be, um, companies trying to build their own LLMs. I don't know if that's really the case. I don't really get into the LLM that level, but I know there are a lot of regulations in banking. I'm in healthcare, um, and all kinds of other industries where it's not, they might not have the opportunity to just use ChatGPT or another tool because of privacy and security, things like that.
Yeah, and you've had, so between healthcare and accounting, finance, like you've had two kind of pretty regulated industries you've worked in. Like, how has that helped you um like kind of form your opinions and your approach on data governance, like when you're thinking through all of that? How does that, because again, those are two very regulated industries with privacy, more so, HIPAA. And then on the financing side, I'm not familiar with like the regulating bodies for those, or the guidelines. But at minimum, like GDPR, CCPA pretty much applies to everything. But healthcare in particular, and then of course some finance stuff is really really highly regulated. So data governance is really important. uh, Maybe you can just talk a little bit about your learnings there, and like some things that you think can maybe apply across the board, or maybe kind of specific.
Yeah, I think it's just because of all the, um, I don't know if it's like just because there is a lot of regulation or because we see a lot of security breaches, data um, being publicized that shouldn't be, that I think a lot more about like um, what data is in the data set that I'm working with, and trying to ensure that I'm not like adding any risk to that, the security of that data, I guess. So that, what I'm trying to say is like a lot of times we build a data set, or we have a data set, it's got 50 columns. So I think more now about what really is necessary in that end product, and don't put anything more than is necessary into it. and kind of having that approach of minimizing even what's out there that people are able, like what they're allowed to access, trying to minimize the risk by not having more than that there in case a bad actor gets into it. So
Yeah, definitely from an exposure perspective, like increases your risk or rather decreases your risk a lot taking
mhm,
that approach. But also, I mean, there's a performance benefit to that too, right? Like
yeah,
you're, especially depending on what type of server you're dealing with. If you're on-prem still and you've got legacy databases you're working with, like you can get a nice performance boost by cutting out stuff you don't need.
mhm.
I got to ask about the hat. What's up with the hat?
About a year ago, I saw this. I started seeing locally hats. I think there's a local company that does this with the local sports teams and things like that. I live in Utah, um, and I I've been using Printful for a long time. It's like you can you can print one thing on a shirt, one thing on a hat, and it costs the same as if you print 100. So I wanted to make this hat after I started seeing that kind of that style, and yeah, that's what. So I sent it to Printful, and had it printed up, and been wearing it probably for the past year. And people stop me and ask me what it means. Like why do you have the data backwards? And my response is usually, well, you wouldn't have asked me about my hat if it wasn't. So trying to start a conversation here.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is I'm sure it's a conversation starter. I'm just curious about it. I was waiting until this conversation to ask you about it, but I've noticed it a few times, obviously, and just curious about it. If you're if you're somebody who's in like an individual contributor role and they want to move into we kind of talked about the moving more towards like technical roles, right? So like what if you wanted to take the other path and you wanted to be an analytics leader? What's maybe some recommendations or suggestions or approaches on some things that people should work on to move in that direction?
I would say I'm kind of like probably I don't know. My obviously my so I've been in a manager role for like 2 months, if that. So my path has always been
Congratulations.
thank you. My path has always been individual contributor, and that's I love doing that. I think that in my current role, I still have an opportunity to build a lot, so I guess probably looking for the right opportunity. But if there is, I don't think I have like good enough experience. Um, I think I happen to be in this role where I I knew like this time in my career I wanted to move into management finally, and kind of from the start of the company I'm with, I expressed that interest just so that my manager was aware, and that ended up kind of opening up that quicker that opportunity for me. So I think that's a key thing is um, make sure that you're like anybody above you knows that you're interested in that, and either ask like how you can um, move that way, or yeah, like what you need to add to your skills or your offering to be in more of that role. But I would say also for sure there are a couple people that I love their content on LinkedIn or their posts about this, and one is Anthony Soltero and another is Tristan Burns. Like they talk specifically about moving into analytics management. So um, definitely give them a follow on LinkedIn. So I like because like having moved into management the way I did, I like their content helps me kind of, I think, try to be better at management myself. So, you know.
Yeah, there's some shout out Anthony and Tristan. Those are great recommendations. There's a lot of great folks out there too, that I've seen. June Dershowitz is great. She talks a lot about analytics leadership. Um, Ben Rogajan, I'm probably pronouncing his last name wrong. I'm sorry, Ben. Seattle data guy. He's got great stuff too on analytics leadership. There's some really awesome folks. I mean, there's way too many to list. If I'm excluding you, it doesn't mean you're not awesome, because there's a lot of really great people out there. But yeah, love those shout outs. Cool. It's getting quiet. We've been at it for like 40 minutes. So I'll give it another minute or so and see if anybody has any sneaky last minute questions in here that they want to ask. And otherwise, anything else that you want to talk about, Eric? The floor is yours.
No, like I don't have anything specific. I appreciate the time and to just talk about data. Like, it's kind of funny if I don't know, I could talk about data and analytics for hours, but if you send me to a Christmas party, I can't talk for a minute about anything else. So
I think that speaks to you being in the right profession. You know, you're passionate about it, and it's very obvious. Like with everything that you do, I see your content all the time. Which, by the way, if you're not following Eric, you should be on LinkedIn. He's got awesome stuff. So please give him a follow if you're here, and whether live or on the recording later, go follow Eric on LinkedIn and check out TableauOps. It's really cool what he's building. It's an awesome thing for the community that you're giving back and doing, and I hope it's successful, because it's really awesome. It's really, like technically speaking, it's a really cool tool that you built, but I think it has so much benefit to the overall community. So it's really cool that you're kind of breaking down those barriers for people to start working with the APIs, and because it can be, like you said, it can be really daunting, I think, for people. So it's pretty awesome. I know that when I started, like my analyst roles were really heavy business analyst roles. So like I didn't learn a lot of the technical stuff because it was required for my job necessarily. It definitely helped me do more work. But really I knew, if I could copy paste like SQL queries from like a repository of queries that everybody had that kind of ran them on a normal basis, like that was probably fine to do the job. But I learned SQL and I already knew some Python, not necessarily related to data, but knew Python for building other stuff in school. And that, working on those skills really helped me progress in my career as well. So it's cool because like that was an interest of mine because I was into techie kind of stuff. But if you're not, and you're just a good analyst, like an overall good analyst, but you want to get deeper, tools like yours are really helping kind of break those barriers down. So I think it's really impressive what you're doing, and keep up the amazing work and keep putting awesome content out there for everybody. And definitely appreciate you again taking the time for the Data Goats community and the LinkedIn folks out there, and anybody watching this recording later, to answer some questions for us and spend some time with us today on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's been a good opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, bye everybody out there, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, Zach. Bye.
Thanks, Eric.